You're listening to the Deep End Podcast, a ministry of Hermitage Church, where we have a conversation about Sunday's sermon and chat about ways we can go a little deeper in our faith. I'm Hunter Steinmetz, and I'm one of the pastors here at our church. Every week, we will listen in on a conversation with the preacher from this week about deeper theological pieces of the sermon and suggested practices on how we can embody this word and allow it to seep into our skin. We hope that this podcast will become a part of your weekly faith journey on your drive into work, as you do the dishes, or as you sip your coffee on Tuesday mornings. Thanks for jumping into the deep end with us. Let's listen in on this week's conversation. Welcome to the Deep End. We are focusing in on Revelation 4 and 5. Everybody loves talking about Revelation. It's basically, when you start becoming a thinking being in like middle school, that's the one you care about. Tell me about Revelation. So we're gonna talk about it and tell you everything that you didn't want to know. We're not telling you everything about Revelation because we don't know. But chapters 4 and 5 kind of are the heartbeat of the entire book in some sense.
Yeah, after the letters to the churches, John is taken up in the Spirit. It's interesting language, into this heavenly throne room scene, very imagery-driven, very imaginative. Chapter 4 is the throne of God, and chapter 5 brings the Lamb. These two chapters set the stage for everything else in the book of Revelation.
And I think before we kind of get into all the language that we seem to be familiar with, the lambs and the beasts, we should probably set the scene. Revelation 4 shows God enthroned in glory. There's thunder, there's lightning, there's a sea of glass, 4 living creatures with tons of eyes, and 24 elders with crowns.
Yeah, it's super, the only word.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying. The 4 creatures represent all of creation: lion, ox, man, eagle. Side note, there's throughout the history of kind of the Christian faith, the 4 gospels have been attributed as different animals, and these kind of are the animals. I don't know which ones represent which. I do know eagle represents John's gospel, but Christian tradition has come to kind of represent these 4 as different gospel writers and kind of what those animals symbolize within the gospel of each. But in the passage, and day and night they never stop saying, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come." This here is a vision of a God who rules over everything.
And the elders, they throw their crowns down and worship. They're bowing down to God in worship, and they are singing about God as the creator. And that's kind of the big idea of all of chapter 4, that God is worthy because he has created all things.
Then we slow down a little bit, and chapter 5 turns a corner. John sees a scroll in God's hand, sealed with 7 seals. And there's this tension. No one can open it.
And of course, we've all heard the song, that "Is He Worthy?" Who no one seems to be able to, no one has the key, no one can open this scroll. And the scroll is kind of it contains everything that God is doing in the world in some ways. John begins to weep because the scroll represents God's purposes for history and justice, and it's kind of, they're retroactive purposes, but also purposes going forward. For all of the things that God is trying to do. The problem is it's sealed and inaccessible in some ways. And then one of the elders says, don't weep. See the Lion of the tribe of Judah, he has triumphed. And so you remember that Judah is the southern kingdom. This is where Bethlehem is and Jerusalem is, even though that Jesus grows up in Nazareth, which is in the northern kingdom. But Jesus is meant to be understood as the Lion of Judah. So they're saying, wait, I think we found someone who can unlock this seal and kind of reveal and unveil what it is that God is doing in the world. And this elder says, don't weep, because we have found the Lion of the tribe of Judah, and he has triumphed.
Yeah, but when John looks expecting a lion, he sees a lamb. And not just a lamb, one that looks as if it had been slain, but is standing.
And this is kind of the classic Revelation twist that we don't really tend to spend as much time on. We prefer to read all the Revelation language that's fear-based and talking about the beast as if we worship the beast instead of the lamb. But what we find is this elder says, look, it's the lion. It's the lion of the tribe of Judah. And when they look to see the lion, they do not find a beast-like creature like the rest of the world. What they find is a slaughtered lamb who still is standing on his own power. And so in lots of ways, John is kind of like pastorally writing to these churches and saying what you think is winning or victory, how this will come about. You think that it's through the lens of every other empire because you have been subject to Assyria, you've been subject to Babylon, Persia, the Seleucids, the Greeks, the Romans. It's just been one after another, and you think that the way this comes about is if you have to match the beastliness to win, and it's not that. It's not overpowering. It's actually sacrificial love. So what John ends up seeing is not another beast, just a better beast. It's a lamb.
Yeah. And from here, in this moment, heaven erupts in praise, in worship, really. First, the four creatures and elders sing, "Worthy is the Lamb who is slain." Then myriads of angels join in. Then every creature in heaven and every creature on earth.
So let's pause there. This, the kind of what I just said. This vision is the answer to the evil powers of the world, which later on in Revelation are symbolized by beasts. They're kind of the empires of the world. But right here, before we ever meet the beast, and everyone seems to know about the beast in Revelation. We only ever talk about the beast in Revelation. But before we ever meet the beast in Revelation, John wants us to see the lamb.
Yeah.
The focal point of Revelation is not the beast, it's the lamb.
Yeah.
The lamb who we all want to be the lion, but he is actually the lamb.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that that's what we see, but John is intentionally trying to say, look here, look here.
Yeah, which actually, even more so, we find ourselves only talking about the beast. Mm-hmm. And what we want Jesus to be is the Lion of Judah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the elders in the room are saying. Look, it's the lion.
Yeah.
And when they look, that is not who he appears as.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this may be horrible theology, so smite me, God, if so, or if you're a theologian, you can tell me I'm wrong. But it seems that even the elders in heaven seem to be confused that it's not a lion that shows up, but that it's a lamb. Mm-hmm. So even how Jesus presents himself is not another beast. He is a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah. It goes back to, I think, a little bit into even some of the earlier Gospels where, having your eyesight restored is to see anew, to see in a new way, to see Jesus for who Jesus actually is, and not who we want to think Jesus is.
Yeah. And that half blindness may be worse than full blindness. Mm-hmm. That Peter knows enough that Jesus is the Messiah, and yet his understanding of what a Messiah is wrong.
Yeah.
And he says, "We'll never let you die." And Jesus says, he calls him Satan. Mm-hmm. The opposite. You are the opposite of me right now.
Yeah.
Or that we'll talk about in a minute. You are like Antichrist right now. You are the opposite of what it means to be a lamb.
Yeah.
You don't understand what this. You think that you know. You are calling me the Lion of Judah, but what a Lion of Judah really is a sacrificial lamb. Oh, it's so beautiful.
It's amazing. So Revelation here is preparing readers. The beasts may look powerful, but only the Lamb is worthy. Only the Lamb can open the scroll and set God's plan in motion.
So maybe we should clarify a little bit more. The beast in Revelation mainly comes up in chapters 13 and a little bit later, but it represents these corrupt and violent empires like Rome, which is in John's time, but also this recurring spirit of Antichrist in every age. And every time we hear Antichrist, we think of just if God has a Messiah named Jesus, then Satan must have his own version of Messiah, who is the Antichrist.
We're always looking for who that.
Yeah, like who is it? Is it this person that's running for president? Is it this, like world leader in a country that our particular country has a political issue with? Because we can be really arrogant and believe that if someone is angry with America, then there must be angry with God. We conflate the two, and that's problematic. But what Antichrist is a strictly Johannine, which means John writes about it, not in the Gospel of John or in the Revelation of John, but in the three letters that he writes. 1 John, it's really only 1 John and 2 John where he talks about that. The word Antichrist is not in Revelation, but we have, tradition has like I'm using the word conflating a lot, but it's conflated those two things together. When
culture.
Culture has. When it really is not, it's not there. The Greek word is not there. But when John is referring to Antichrist, he's saying, beware of them. He's literally referring to those people who were saying that Jesus may have been a figment of our imagination. He's pushing back against early heresies known as Docetism and some forms of Gnosticism, which basically is saying, Jesus, he may have looked human, but he was kind of just an apparition.
Yeah.
So we can't really, and so John is saying, beware of those people. That is not the gospel. They're telling you something about Jesus that's not true.
Yeah.
So,
which is interesting, pushing up against the culture of their time, too.
Yeah.
The things that were prominent, they were trying to say, they're just pushing. It was always kind of this pushing up against the culture. And that's why it's so important to really lean in to what the text is saying.
Yeah.
But culture can often be the lenses through which we see.
Yeah.
But
and even like we have this big tendency to make the Antichrist one human being that would be equivalent to Jesus, but on the evil side. That's not what it is at all. I can be Antichrist. Brad, you can be Antichrist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I can say things and do things that are Antichrist. And so there is Antichrist in me, not because, not so if I sin, I say Satan made me do it, but there are things about me that, no, I really would like to hoard more of my wealth and keep it from the hungry. Yeah, that's Antichrist.
Yeah.
And I have to name that in myself. So we have to push back against those things, and that is the beast that is in Revelation, and sometimes he lives in me too.
Yeah. Beasts devour and oppress. They are powerful and strong and
hoard.
Yeah. They're tempting and attractive, but the Lamb gives itself. In Revelation, power is redefined. The world sees power as domination. The Lamb shows true power as sacrificial love.
Yeah, and it's sometimes hard for us to, I guess, see how the beast shows itself today, because lots of times we just use our own previous ideology, be it political or theological, whatever, to find what it is, to just like point fingers at it.
Yeah.
But we live in a world that loves beastly powers that give us like a false sense of security and protection, and maybe offer us things that might be good for us, but really Antichrist to other people. So we still live in a world that bows to beastly powers and sometimes like venerates them and lifts them to levels that they should not be lifted to. The beastly powers are violence, it's greed, it's coercion, it's selfishness, it's taking more for me at the expense of other people. But for Christians, we follow the Lamb. And although sometimes we would rather Jesus be more like a beastly figure, like a lion who can devour and do the things that the beast does, that is not who we find in Jesus. What we find is a slain lamb on our behalf. And that is our call to do the same.
Yeah.
He conquers through mercy.
Absolutely. And it might be partly why John writes Revelation sort of as this kind of pastoral letter. His churches were facing persecution underneath the empire. And he's saying to them, don't get seduced by the beasts. Don't get seduced by the antichrists of your day and age. Don't get seduced. Fix your eyes on the Lamb, which is so difficult to do when we're surrounded My mind goes to the image of it's just the image of you can be swimming in water for so long that you don't even realize you're swimming in water. And that one day you can say, wait, there's been air I've been breathing that has been shaping and forming me to see a certain way, just because of the culture we live in that we don't even realize is shaping and forming us to see that certain way. Until we follow a different narrative, which is the gospel, to say, oh, wait, it's not saying that it's not saying everything in our culture is bad.
Yeah.
It's not saying we can't go to and do things we enjoy, like baseball games.
Right.
I love going to baseball games, but it is saying there might be some things within our culture that aren't necessarily healthy or beneficial to us. And that's what kind of fixing our eyes on the Lamb is doing, in a way, is saying there is culture that we brush up against, but there's a God who wants to show us a different way.
Yeah. You can go to the baseball game, but if you shush the person who is asking for food on the sidewalk on the way, then I think there is a greater tension of Antichrist, beastly, versus lamb tension in your heart than you think.
Absolutely.
The baseball game is not the issue.
Yeah.
Right. So everything that the beast and the lamb and the lion, all of these visuals are incredible, and the beasts later on are grotesque, but the lamb is standing at the center of the throne, and all worship kind of just encircles him and orbits him, and everything finds meaning not in the beast, but in the lamb.
Yeah, and another interesting detail: the lamb has 7 horns and 7 eyes, which all throughout Scripture, the number 7 symbolizes perfection. So perfect power here and perfect knowledge. It's the complete opposite of the beast's counterfeit power.
And that perfect word is more like telos. That's the kind of the Greek, and it's more goal based. This is where it's completion. It's where it finds its meaning. Yeah. Kind of what we were saying. Mistake free, yes, but the better New Testament understanding of perfection is goal-based completion. It's on its way to completion. And so when we find it here, like the 777, it is complete here. Everything finds its meaning. There's nothing missing. It's like shalom in the Old Testament, kind of. So if we put all this together, Revelation 4 shows God's throne and that the Creator is worthy of worship. And Revelation 5 shows the Lamb, the Redeemer, worthy to break the seals. And both chapters show all of creation worshiping.
Yeah, and that really does set the baseline for reading the rest of the book. Before the chaos of judgments or the terrifying imagery of beasts, John wants us rooted in the Lamb's victory. Which is
so important. I mean, we when you think of Revelation, you think of the dragons and the lake of sulfur and the beast. You think of all the, what does that mean? And we've totally missed the fact that all of creation is worshiping the Lamb. And why are we spending so much time talking about the beast when all of creation has found its completion and its worship in the Lamb? The key is not the fear of the beast. It is worship of the Lamb. Revelation is about worship of the Lamb, and this is where creation finds its end.
And maybe to end today, we can even remember what the creatures and elders sing. You were slain, and with your blood you redeemed people for God from every tribe and language and people and nation. The Lamb sacrifice breaks down all barriers.
And ultimately, the way that all of creation finds its telos, its completion, its wholeness, is not in a God who has mimicked the beastliness of humanity, but rather who has taken on the form of a lamb who is slaughtered and killed on the behalf of that creation that he did love. Yeah. And somehow, in this weird backwards way, he has not conquered us to force us to worship him. He has sacrificially given his life for us, but not through the beastliness that humanity always wants to seem to choose. He gives his life for us. And through his love and his laying down of his life, we find completion in the worship of this Lamb. It's so beautiful. Yeah. So much better than talking about the beast.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, how could we expect anything different? We know who Jesus is.
Yeah. But of course, this is how the story should end.
Yeah. It's amazing. The good news is that the Lamb who was slain is alive on the throne and worthy of our worship.
And this is how this is the telos, this is the end goal of creation, that we find our completion and our meaning in worship of the Lamb who gave his life for us, and not in the continual seeking of what the beast can do for us, because it never ends well. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you Sunday.